to get things going, so here's what's going to happen. We're going to start with the browning of the meat and cooking of the onions. We're going to use 1 onion. So what's going to happen here is I've already started to heat up my pot over like medium high heat, and I'm going to lob off the tops and the bottom. That's a bad onion. That happens. So I'm going to lob the tops and the bottom off my onion. And then I'm going to chop it in half. And then I'm going to take that outside layer. So I'm trying to remove that hard outer shell and then anything that looks mealy on the outside. So sometimes that's 2 layers deep, sometimes that's 1, sometimes it's 3. But I just want to make sure that there's no mealy parts of the onion going to be cooked because it just doesn't break down and it doesn't cook real well. All right, so now we get to have some onion fun cookie slicing magic. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to always cut that onion flat side down. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that knife and I'm going to slice it halfway through on both sides because we're going to do some dicing. And then I'm going to, so I don't cut it all the way through. I leave it a little bit together right at the very end. And then I'm going to take my knife and slice along the ribs. And I'll do that to the other side. So you can kind of see here that it's still kind of in integrity, right? So I still have a little bit on the edge that's still together. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn that clockwise and I'm going to slice small diced onions. And then I'll take the edges there at the very end and then brush that off to the side. Did you get all that, Trevin?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
yeah, he was asking questions to me.
Oh, what was his question?
Well, he didn't catch the first part about cutting it through the half of that.
Oh, yeah. So, again, I'll just use this bad onion one more time. So, what you'll do is you'll cut just like part way through this way, okay?
See it?
And then you keep it.
Yeah.
Then when you try to, you see how it's still together? I'm pulling it apart. And you want to cut towards the smaller end, not the larger end.
Yeah. Say thanks, Chef Nick. Thank you, Chef Nick.
All right. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come over to my pot. I'm going to take some olive oil, drizzle some down to the bottom of the pan. I'm going to dust the side that I'm going to sear with salt and pepper. And if your dad doesn't have this yet for you, Kellen or Trevin, what I would ask them to do is to get you a little salt jar so you can mix a little pepper and coarse cooking salt so that you have it right there at your side so you're not picking up the grinder. And then you get, so this is a much more efficient way. You get a much more even spread of salt distribution. So
Yeah, I even have a story to share with you about the grinder. We have grinders, and I went to go use it, and it was loose, and the entire garlic salt fell right into the dish. So
that happens. Uh-oh.
Perfect example.
Perfect example. So I'm also going to take these onions, and I'm going to add them in to my turkey. And every time I go to like transfer something from my cutting board into the pot or into a bowl, I want to use the back edge of my knife. So I want to rotate and brush with that, because one of my biggest pet peeves is when people use the blade of their knife to scrape. It dulls the knife, and it kind of can ruin the integrity of your knife. And especially if you're using a very, not this one, but if you're using an expensive knife for some reason, you don't need an expensive knife, but you don't want to be doing that. So, all right. So now we get to cut some mushrooms, which is fun. So the recipe called, so what I did, I added a pound of ground turkey and 1 onion that I small diced and added it to my Dutch oven pot. So now what's going to happen is I am going to slice up my mushrooms, and I'm going to quarter them. And one of the things you want to do when it comes to mushrooms, which I've already done, is you want to take like a paper towel. You don't have to do this for all of them, but if there's like little black spots or something, you can like clean them up. So you want to make sure that you remove any of that dirt that might have found its way onto those mushrooms. Yes, it's kind of fun to eat dirt, but it's you know, I don't know. I just like to have things clean. I don't want unnecessary like things to make it into my cooking. So,
you know, my dad used to tell me when I was a kid that if I ate more dirt, I would grow to be taller. Is that true?
You are pretty tall. So how much dirt did you really eat? All right. So when I prepare mushrooms, how I like to do it is I like to keep the bottom side down. Okay. So what I'm going to do is to quarter them, I'm going to slice in half, and then I'm going to slice one more time. So I make it look like, so I'm quartering those up. So again, this nice and easy. Doesn't have to be for time. But again, you can kind of, I'm still holding the knife, pinching the knife at the bottom. I'm never letting go of that. So when they, you know, so obviously I'm wearing a CrossFit shirt, but so I'm a big CrossFit guy. And when you do like Olympic lifts, like snatch or clean and jerks, they always want you to use a hook grip. And so I try to say like, pinch the body. Like I know people are kind of, I can be annoying when I coach, like get the hook grip. And I'm also that way in the kitchen when it comes to the knife. Like you got to pinch it on the bottom, pinch it on the bottom.
So you're saying there's a cross between CrossFit and culinary art?
Yeah. Yes, 100%. Has Trevin or Kellen, have they ever cooked mushrooms before?
I don't think so. Cut maybe, not this way. That's why I was looking over at Trevin to see if he's watching.
So you could do it other ways too, where you could, you know, I'll just do this for the sake of learning. But for slicing, what I would do for slicing is I would point the stem of the mushroom towards me, and then I would just always try to find some flat surface on which to cut. So to like the cut mushroom, I suppose you could go this way too. But I always like to have it a little bit tilted. And then I just go to town. All right, so we've got a few more mushrooms to cut up here. And again, Troy, what do you have to share about mushrooms? I know we've been, you know, kind of reading some interesting things out there about food as medicine. Like, what do you know about mushrooms that's healthy, and why you want to eat mushrooms?
To be honest with you, Nick, that's one I don't know that much about. I know growing up as a kid, we had a lot of morels that we would hunt for in our backyard. And so, my dad early on taught us about safety of which mushrooms to eat and which ones don't.
Will you please share that information for anybody out there that's in the woods, that's lost and is hungry?
But when you're a kid and you're in the woods and you're on the farm or wherever you are, like there's always wild fruit or veggies or anything of that nature. So I just have to be cautious of what you're eating. My dad actually ate some wild berries one time, and I had to go get his stomach pumped.
No kidding.
Yep. So that's an example of eating something that is potentially poisonous.
Wow. I remember being on a long hike in Alaska with a tour guide, and I wish I would remember for sure with 100% certainty, but I think he said if it has ribs on the bottom, you don't want to eat it. I think that's what he said.
There you go. That's more simple to remember than any type of kind of mushroom or anything. So.
All right, so I've got the mushrooms all quartered up, and I'm gonna. Trevor, what am I gonna use to scrape my stuff into the bowl?
He stepped away, but I'll answer it.
Oh.
The back of the knife.
That's right, Troy.
Hey, you're teaching me tonight, right?
All right, so I'm going to bring over my my turkey here. Give it a stir. All right, so garlic. One of my favorite mechanisms to call people to dinner and into the kitchen is with garlic. So
yeah.
I call this the what are you cooking ingredient. So I'm gonna demonstrate here real quick. So what I'm doing is I'm lobbing off the tops and just the top of the kind of the eye of the garlic, and then I'm gonna smash it, and then we're gonna peel it and mince it. So it's a 3-step process. And for some reason, yes, you can definitely buy garlic in jars, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I just really like the smell. I like working with garlic. So I always like to go straight from the source, the actual garlic clove itself. That's just my preference. I also feel like it just cooks better and tastes better personally as well. So what I'm doing here is I'm taking the flat edge of my knife and I'm pressing down to help release, punch out that outside layer of the skin. You kind of see that it just pops right out. And then it makes your fingers smell like garlic for a couple days, and I kind of like it.
Yeah. Versus fish, right?
Yes, versus fish. Yes, exactly. It could be worse. But garlic has got tons of heart health properties as well. So there's a lot of good stuff going on with garlic, and vampires also don't want to take your blood if you have garlic in it. So
true fact.
True fact. All right. So you can kind of see just how, yes, it's a little bit of a process, but, I'm not just like that smashing piece of it really just helps speed up the process of peeling that garlic. So I'm going to clean up my cutting board here real quick.
Nick, do you have a favorite cutting board that you use, just in case any of our listeners are?
Yeah, so I've really kind of fallen for this Epicurean brand. I really like, it's sort of a composite of, I think it's bamboo.
Okay.
But I like how it cooks, or I like how it cuts, and it's with like a pure wood one. You have to do a little bit more maintenance with it, which is fine. But for this Epicurean, it's a workhorse type of, and there's certain ones that you can get where it kind of also doubles as just sort of a really, you can like serve like a charcuterie plate on, that kind of thing. So I like to think about cutting boards also being things that I might serve stuff on, like a fruit tray or something. So I'm just taking that garlic. I'm going to give it a mince. So what I like to do is I like to pile it up. I like to anchor in on one side and just make my way through that big pile. And then I'll use the back edge of my knife to bring it all back and just keep 3 or 4 passes there. If you're looking for a very even garlic mince, the key would be then to like take it like this, hold both edge and the bottom, and kind of rock back and forth. That will help even it out towards the end. All right. So now that the garlic is done, I'm going to call everybody to the kitchen, even though I'm the only one here, so my dog might come out. But I'm going to add that garlic now to my pan. And then I'm going to mix that in. So you can kind of see here what we're working with here. So the meat's starting to cook up here. The onions are starting to get translucent, which is great. The garlic's going to go in and bring everybody into the kitchen. And now's my time to add my mushrooms. So I'm using cremini mushrooms. And then I got some fresh oyster mushrooms from the co-op here today. So they have a lot more mushrooms in stock than I would have thought, which is fantastic. But you can use any type of mushrooms that you would like. I'm also going to go ahead and add my lid to this, because I want that to cook down. And then we're going to move into the basil that we're going to, it's not going to take very long. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to chiffonade my basil. So chiffonade is a fancy, I think it's Italian. But what we're going to do is basil is a very delicate herb. It's a very tasty herb. It smells wonderful, but it's a very, it's just a very delicate herb. It's not like rosemary, which you could probably run it under a bus and it would still be okay. But if you did
That's such a good analogy, because it's so true. I mean, we have rosemary growing in our rock bed out front, in front of our porch, and that thing just never gets damaged. It just always rocks through. So.
Yeah, but like the littlest thing, the wind blows on basil and it like tears, right? So,
yep.
Yes. But I love basil. Like I said, with the garlic and the basil of this dish, it's going to be a wonderful combination. So what I'm doing here is I'm kind of folding all of this basil. We're going to kind of make almost like a burrito of sorts. We'll call it that. And what we're going to do is we're going to roll it nice and tight, and then I'm going to take my knife and I'm going to go really thin ribbons here. So I'm going to take my time. This is where it really is important to have that sharp knife, because you want that to go straight through. And you can kind of see like just how nice that is right here. Okay. So really nice and thin.
So that's really neat. So like if I go to a restaurant and I see the basil looks like that as like a top on a dish, can I assume that the chef is using this technique?
Yes, that's correct.
Nice.
And most restaurants will, like, most restaurants will likely, chiffonade their basil they're going to serve it on their pasta or on top of the salad or their pizza. So, so as you can kind of see, it's really nice. You might want to pull a couple pieces apart, but you got these really beautiful ribbons here. And it just looks really nice if you hold that up high, and then you can drizzle down. So
yes,
there's your chiffonade lesson for basil. And we're going to want to throw that in because, like I said, like once you cut basil, you kind of need to, like you've gone and really just disrupted the integrity of the leaf and the herb. So you really want to get to it and throw it in whatever you're cooking or serve it immediately. So if you were going to throw this on a pizza or pasta, what you would do is cut that right before you would serve it. Okay. And then throw it on there. So you can kind of see now the mushrooms are starting to break down. There's a little bit of liquid in there. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to add my basil here. I'm also going to add about a half a cup of oat milk. And I'm going to add a couple splashes of tamari.
So what's tamari?
Tamari is a gluten-free soy sauce.
Okay.
So, yes.
I like it. Have you ever cooked with coconut aminos?
I have, yes. That would be another option here. And I'm also now I'm going to use some fish sauce. So I love fish sauce. I do not ever recommend drinking this straight up. If you smell this, it feels like you are like someone, like, I don't know. It smells like someone threw a guts underneath into your car. But when you mix it in with stuff like mushrooms and meats, it's a very popular in Thai food. But it really is something magical happens, in my opinion, when you combine it.
So it's flavorful, but it smells like
yeah, but it smells like death. We'll just call it what it is. Yes. All right, so I'm going to mix all that in. And so now I've got a really beautiful, so that green of the basil really adds, it's going to add such a wonderful color to this dish. It's also going to add really nice flavor. And now what's going to happen, since this is pretty much done, what I'm looking for to know that it's done is, one, that my meat is cooked, which I can tell, as long as there's like no pink in there. So no pink. The mushrooms have cooked down, and there's not much to do with cooking the basil or the other ingredients that we have cooked. So I'm going to put this back on just for a little bit longer for safekeeping. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put together my little medley, heat up my medley of potatoes, and then we're going to do the top with the egg, because there's nothing better, in my opinion, than like a soft oozing egg over mushrooms. There is something out of this world amazing when that happens. So I like to do some meal prep every week. And so what I like to do is I'll take a bunch of potatoes that I get from the CSA or the farmer's market. I'll bring them home. I'll dice them all up, roast them all up, and then I'll put them in these cool little quart containers. And I'll just keep these in my fridge. And when I want to, make my dinner for that evening, I can go straight to the fridge, and I already got my my diced sweet potatoes. Oh, he's back. Now he knows it's almost time to eat. That's what it is.
He was a little delayed in smelling that garlic.
It's making its way over to Michigan right now. That's awesome.
That's right.
So for this dish, so ideally what I would do is I would heat these up. I could also throw them in the microwave real quick. But for the sake of time, we're just gonna We're going to pile those on there. And then I'm heating up my little nonstick skillet. And you want to do this on a nonstick skillet. I've only found, I suppose you could do it on a cast iron, but it really needs to be well seasoned. But for the sake of tonight, we're doing this on a nonstick. So you're going to need 1 egg. You're going to throw some oil into the pan. And then I'm going to do this over here because I want to show everyone what I'm talking about. So when I go to do this, I'm going to crack, and then I'm going to get really close to the pan, and I'm going to gently let the egg out. And so then you have a, I'm spreading it around, but that's okay. So ideally you wouldn't move it and it would just stay right there, but you want to crack it really close. And so that it doesn't spread out like what just happened to me, but that's okay. We can save it. It's still going to be good. I'm also going to do a little salt and pepper on top as that cooks. And you're also going to need a spatula. Beautiful. Okay. So what I'm going to do with that, I'm going to get a spoon. So I'm going to take that, my mushroom mix here, and I'm going to pour it over my medley here. Maybe get some of those juices to go on top. And if I was smart, I would have saved just a little fresh basil for the top, but I forgot. So that's what happens. All right. So now the fun part. So with the egg, you can kind of see when I'm ready to flip it, you're going to sort of see that it's going to sort of start to harden up around the yolk of the egg. I'm going to take that spatula and I'm just going to flip it over, give it a couple seconds. And we're going to be good to go. So then when you're ready, you'll just gently rest that right on top. And I think what would be really good, and we'll talk about this because Chris talked about it, I'm going to have a little bit of truffle-infused sea salt that I'm going to dust it with.
Nice.
And voila, you have the wild garlicky meat mix and mushrooms.
That looks good, man.
For that. Maybe the Trevin and Kellen special.
Yeah, I like it.